Hello, Troy here with SFP Nostalgia Motorsports. We're continuing on with the 12 bolt. The next thing I would like to do is, I really would like to do one more good cleaning of the housing. But before I do that, I need to pull the axle seals and axle bearings out of here. But before I get to that point, I did check this entire rear axle for straightness, and it came out really good. So I did that by using a level surface, and then I put the jack stands on a level surface, ensured everything was level. Went off of this surface back here, and then I picked every level surface I could find on the center section of the housing, the cast iron portion, and then I took dimensions from there to the rear axle tubes. And I did that throughout the whole thing through several sections. I also put a straight edge and a level across those sections to ensure that they were all straight. Took dimensions from those points down to the level surface, and I just kept rotating the axle around and checked it for straightness, and then I also checked it for squareness. And everything checked out okay. Now the last check I'd like to do though is to put my differential in temporarily, and then also slide the axles, the old axles in it. That's why I have these here right now. And make sure that they all engage and that everything spins freely and that there's no binding. The other thing I want to check is with the bearing caps, this rear was blown up and disassembled when I got it. When I say blown up, I mean literally the ring and pinion was garbage. But the caps were off. So I want to make sure I have the caps in the correct orientation so that there's no binding. So I could potentially have them backwards where I'd need to move this one over and flip it around and vice versa, but I'm kind of thinking this is correct, and there is a mark on here, the bright yellow mark, and most of the differentials I've had apart, when I pull off the cover, I'll see that mark on the passenger side of the differential. So we're just going to wing it and see if that works out. So we'll grab the differential and put it in there. All right, we'll take off one cap at a time here. We'll do our best not to mess up the orientation. Hardest part here is to make sure that you do not get your fingers caught in here. And remember, the bearing won't sit in here quite as nice because we don't have any shims in here at the moment. Now we'll give these a quick torque. All right, well that thing really spins freely. So I think we have a winner there. All right, I'm feeling pretty confident with the orientation of the caps, and it's moving very smoothly. What I did was I just put in arbitrary shims on each side just for the time being, because again, all I'm checking, I'm just doing some checking of the housing condition. That's all I'm doing right now. So this is feeling pretty good, so I feel good about that. Now what we're going to do is try to install an axle on each side. So both axles will go in and we'll see if they engage. That'll also help us to feel confident, or help me to feel confident, that this housing is indeed straight. Put some gear oil on this, on the splines. Some on the bearing surface. Okay, we're at the differential opening now. Okay, and we are in on this side. Now we'll do the same to the other side. Get some gear oil on those splines. We'll be real careful here, sliding this in. Looks like we're just about there. Go. Bingo. All right. Looking good. So there you can see it. And of course you can tell this is a posi, but see how both axles move in relationship to each other, which that's an awesome thing to see on anything, even the lowest powered vehicles. I think that's the best thing in the world to see right there. So now, what do we do next? I feel 100% confident that this axle is in good enough shape for us to proceed. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to pull these axles out. I'll pull out this differential, and then I'm going to pull out each of the bearings, each of the seals and the bearings on the end so I can really get in those tubes and clean this thing out. So let's take the differential out first. Well, the axles first and then followed by the differential. Remember, do not pinch your fingers. There we go. Got this. Always keep your races with the accompanying bearing. Okay. That worked out fantastic. Now, let's pull some seals and bearings. Okay, in order to get the seals out of here, as with a lot of these, they are extremely stubborn. So what I end up doing many times is just carefully, I use a chisel to crack the seal, and then I can hit it. I can pry it out with a pry bar then. Just always be very careful if you're using a chisel. You don't want to be chiseling on your housing. There we go. Out goes the seal. So, all right, with no damage to the housing. Woo! Victory! Okay, so now what we'll do is try to get these bearings out of here with a cheap tool that I just got. Let's see what happens. Alright, we'll see if the slap hammer, this slap hammer will even work without having somebody out here to support the rear. Make sure you don't hit the Buick, that's for sure. So what this tool does is, if I can get in here a little closer. So this nut here, you rotate it back so that you can allow this part to swivel. So this part swivels, gets inserted into the bore, and then straightened out. Then you tighten it up to bring this washer up to it so that this can't swivel again. Then the idea is pull back on that slap hammer and hopefully the bearing comes free. Hopefully. Alright, we're in there. We're against. Let's tighten this thing down. And move this thing away from the Buick a little. Last thing I want is to put a dent in a car that has like absolutely no dents in it. Okay, always, this is another one. Eye protection, and we're going to wear gloves. Wish me luck, because these things are stubborn sometimes. Stubborn, especially when you weren't the person to put these in. Whoa! Woo! Alright. Yep, Harbor Freight to the rescue again. My gosh, I hope the other side goes that easy. All right. So this is probably a good shot here. You can see how here's the bearing. This was inserted so that I could actually go in through the bearing like that, and then it straightens out, and you grab the back side, the washer goes up against, and you tighten up that nut. So very, very simplistic tool, but as you can see, it did the job. Now let's see, was that just a fluke, or is the other side gonna come out that nice? Let's see. Move this to kind of bring it into frame a little bit better. All right, let's try this one again. Let's see if we got another winner here. There we go. Washer in. Tighten this thing up. Slide down. And let's do it this way. Come on, baby. Yeah! Woo! There's another one. Wow. Good deal. Whew. All right. This is a perfect place to stop now for the night. We had a lot of luck here. So what I'll do is I'll put the caps back in just so we keep those in the orientation that seem to work. Oh, by the way, the other thing I noticed with these was there's a stripe. It's very hard to see here. We have a stripe down this part of the cap. And there is a corresponding stripe on the lower portion of the bulkhead, or the lower portion that the cap is balding into. So I saw on each side that stripe lines up. So if you have them flipped, there's no stripe there. So we are, that's about as much proof as you need that you're getting the caps on the right location. All right, so what's next? The next thing we're going to do is kind of the busy work, where we're going to be taking this housing, cleaning it up a little bit more, because we have some areas that have a little bit of grime, and some I introduced tonight. We're going to also, I'll take a long screwdriver with a rag, a lint-free cloth, and I'll spray in here with like brake clean, carb cleaner, something like that, and really get these tubes cleaned out. And then I'll be prepping the housing, and we're going to get started. After that, I will primer this thing because I feel pretty confident about it. We'll get this in primer and some paint on it, some black paint, and then we can start the assembly process. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and doing it as cheap as we possibly can, but with quality parts. Oh, axles. You'll notice that I slipped in the old used axles. I will not be using those axles. Let me find one here. Let me explain why. So, these axles here are C-clip retention. So there is a notch here for the C-clips. That is a wear point. So the axles, what I've usually found, like with the original Chevelle rear, when I had my old 8.2 in the car for about a year, I noticed that there was some slop, and that's because the buttons, actually, that groove where the button is, tends to wear. I am going to get aftermarket axles for this, so it'll be new C-clip axles to keep this thing as inexpensive as possible, but they'll be at least new, so that tolerance in there should be pretty tight. Alright, this is a good place to stop. Thank you everyone for watching. Of course, like and subscribe if you want to follow along. I greatly appreciate it. Share with your friends, share with your family. I know I will. So have a good one, people. See you next time.